Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Grain Market Blast. It is Thursday, the 24th of April, all day. As usual, the amazing Angie will be giving a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before she does, I better get the legals out of the way. So nothing discussed in this space session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ or indeed myself, Mr. Ryan Paisley, and of course the wonderful, the magnificent, the resplendent Mrs. Angie Setzer. How are you, my darling?
I am a super. How are you
Thanks
today?
for
It's
asking. I
Thursday.
think I,
Yes.
it's lovely. I'm in the sun. I'm a bit stressed today, but I'm in the sun, and I think I might have a nice little cider after speaking to you. So I'm feeling
That's
better.
smart. I endorse. Have two. One on me.
Well, do you know what?
Just
Only because I do whatever you tell me to do, I will have two.
I appreciate it. That's smart also to do that. So, welcome. It is Thursday. I am a little exhausted. So, yeah, you feel a bit stressed. I feel a bit, I think everyone, and I feel bad saying I'm exhausted. I'm mentally exhausted. Like, I shouldn't even say words right now because my customers, my farmers are all planting. They're working like 18-hour plus days. And I'm over here like, oh, I only got 7 hours last night. I'm just so sleepy. So, I shouldn't say
Yeah,
it, but
yeah.
I am. My brain's a little fried, and I'm a little bit over here like, what the heck is going on? People rely on me to tell them, and I don't know. So, welcome to the blind leading the blind here on
The
a Thursday
Thunderdome.
morning. Right. Yesterday, really, I mean, the big thing that we're looking at is obviously the China tariff updates. What is or what
Yeah.
isn't? Are we going to kiss or what? And so, for the most part, there is some confusion there, some conflicting statements, we could call them, right? Early in the day yesterday,
Yes.
we'd kind of seen a little optimism over, maybe President Trump. There were some reports kind of circulating, and anymore, honestly, like I see a report circulate, and I'm like, unless it's written on Truth Social, I'm going to take that with a giant grain of salt and maybe
Yeah.
a heaping.
And even then, it's like there could
Yeah,
be a message following that that kind of undoes everything that was just said.
contradicts it. You just wait a minute. Yeah. So, at this point in time, there's a lot of what we would call mixed messaging. I think trial balloons. I think there's hope that maybe if we put it out there and say, hey, we're doing this, would you come? Like, I don't know. I feel like I don't want to use the word desperation, but I kind of feel like I'm lacking where it's like, would you please call us?
Yeah.
Like, please just give me a call. And so Trump said yesterday, like, hey, we are considering this, but there won't be a unilateral rollback in tariffs. Maybe it goes to 50% or 60% instead of the 145%. We'll probably establish some new rates here in another couple of weeks. Like, just really this sort of, like I said, tossing it out there that there are going to be changes. He is going to unilaterally make some adjustments, maybe, because later on you heard, well, they're not going to unilaterally do it. And so I'm like, how about we just agree? We count to three and both parties remove tariffs just
Yeah,
on
right.
their own. Coincidentally, has nothing to do with the other one. Just one, two, three tariffs off, and we see what happens. I mean, it might be okay. But that's really where we're at right now. That's the problem. We're back and forth. Trump is saying, hey, we're talking to China every day. My favorite thing, and I know I shouldn't say this because it's supportive of the China side just a little bit, because it was kind of like, oh, you guys are funny over there a little. The Ministry of Truth came out this morning and was like, that's fake news.
Yeah,
And the
I
only
saw
reason
that.
I
Yeah.
kind of, did you see it?
You're
The
like,
only reason I
talk to
chuckled a
who?
little,
Who is this guy?
right? I chuckled a little bit on it because yesterday the press secretary had posted a similar tweet calling something else fake news, and I was like, oh, now we're just everyone's fake news in it. So, we're not. I guess at this point you could say we're either talking to them at lower levels or we're not. It depends on who you're listening to. I'm going to say we're probably not. If we are, maybe we're getting catfished. It's not really Premier
Yeah.
Lee. It's some girl in Montana that's bored. I don't know. But hopefully she's good at putting a trade deal together. But really, when it comes down to, we're getting somewhere. The dissent statement of this is unsustainable, and you and I have said this a million times, where it's like, take it to 1,000, make it a full embargo. You
Yeah.
have to
Stress
remedy
it.
it
Stress it.
sooner than
Make
later.
it
Yes.
creep.
And so that's where we're at. We're just, but we are to the point. There have been reports like Monday, you had Walmart, Home Depot, and there was one other one that was at the White House, amongst others. But you had some of these big box store folks that are like, "Yo, we are going to have a lack of product on store shelves by August at this rate if we aren't careful." Because you've seen
Yeah.
container shipments down, you've seen a lot of different things kind of fall off. And so the pressure is on, and honestly, the pressure is on both sides. to figure something out. But at this point in time, China, I think, has to a certain extent been able to. They've been trade warring with other people longer too, because they've got the EU that we're working towards some resolutions on. Canada, they're trying to work on some resolutions. You did see Japan come out today and say they aren't going to participate in any sort of block or trade deal that's going to limit China's their trade with China, because China's a bigger trade partner than the US is for them. You've got all these little things where it's like everyone around the world can't really, like, we want to fight China, but we really just can't get rid of China. And we're not going to, but it is fun to kind of see China. One thing that President Trump has done is made China suddenly believe very greatly in free trade a
China.
little. Like, ask them, China. Yeah, it's pronounced China. But anyway, that's where
China.
we're at. We'll be watching to see if there's any conversation, if there's any progress, if we do hear that, maybe the administration is going to make a unilateral move and cut rates to 50%, just to see if perhaps China does the same tonight or opens the door. But just why haven't we named anyone as the point person either is kind of one of my things where I'm like, just why have Jameson handle it? He seems to have a good head on his shoulders. So we'll see. He and I are on first name basis, by the way.
Yeah.
Not if you ask him, he'd be like, "Who?" But
Who?
no, we're
Oh,
close.
that
Like,
girl, that awesome girl from the Grey
yeah,
Market
the
Blast.
Green
Oh,
girl.
that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. I like her.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
buddies
yeah,
with
yeah.
Ryan. I know him.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's always at the pub.
next is step, or next bullet point, if you will, of things that seem important. We're obviously paying attention to Russia-Ukraine peace talks. They're not going great. Russia last night launched a pretty hefty attack on Kyiv. And a couple other oblasts. President Trump said he wasn't very happy with it. The timing was not good. He called him Vladimir, which is only something his mother is allowed to call him,
Yeah,
and
right.
told him to stop in all caps. I will tell you, though, I have tried that with Colton. Stop. And that just seems to be more of a, you want me to do it again? So we'll see if Vladimir, our buddy Vlad, listens or not. Zelensky, Trump kind of reiterated his gosh darn, Zelensky's making this difficult. And meanwhile, Zelensky's over there like, yeah, you are asking me to do a lot of stuff, which is, kind of a bummer for them. You are looking at Russia currently controls 20% of Ukraine's territory, not counting Crimea. And so I could see where there might be a little bit of a pushback, a hope for negotiation for territories and things like that. But I do struggle a little bit. There is kind of a hang up with Zelensky and Ukraine, and I get it, but like I struggle with it because it's been 11 years, right? We still want Crimea back. Well, you're not going to get Crimea back. It's gone. Get that peninsula out of your brain. Russia's got it. You know what I mean? Like, that's been something they've had for 11 years. Is it right? Well, no, I don't know. Like, it's 11 years ago. I'm not saying that we just give up territory left and right or whatever, but if you are going to kind of have that be the hill you're going to stand on, it does get a little problematic, and Trump can kind of paint it, however the way he is that he wants. But I don't think Zelensky and the EU are wrong in saying, like, Russia's not giving up anything for this. Like, basically, we're just handing them, and so I don't know what happens. I honestly, I am open to hearing your side, Ryan, on if you're hearing anything, because they were in London yesterday, so I don't know if the news cycle over there is a bit different, if
No,
there's a feeling of
no,
progress, but
yeah, pretty much everything you've said is kind of the vibe I'm getting. Just one thing I will flag. I can't remember if we did mention this yesterday or I mentioned it this morning on the morning blast I do with Michael Brown. It's all merging into one at this point of the week. One thing I thought was quite interesting is that obviously we had Trump go very aggressive against China. We've now seen him start walking back, and
mm-hmm.
China very much, very much literally out of the book, The Art of War, rather than the Art of the Deal. Um, if if your enemy is making a mistake, don't do anything. Let him carry on making mistakes.
Yeah.
And that seems to be what China have done. And now all of a sudden they've seen Trump kind of walk back a few things and say, oh, well, actually, we're not going to include auto parts or cars or stuff like that involved with tariffs. And China are now, if anything, coming out and being more aggressive. They're like,
Yes.
well, hang on, he's on the back foot now. So it
Yeah,
does
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like this is trying to be. What's the phrase? A poker phrase. It's playing a poor hand badly. You can play a poor hand well, but he's playing a poor hand very badly. Is the vibe that I'm getting.
It feels like some unintended, or yeah, like unintended consequences, or maybe some things that we didn't expect. But you have the butterfly effect. You know what I mean? Like, we're
Yeah.
talking about trade, and so then you're talking about trade with China and relationships with China and all of these things. But then you also have this whole entire peace aspect, the Ukraine Russia situation. You have Russia in general, like Russia and China, and yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. And China right now at this point, I feel like has seen the way that the markets reacted, has seen the way that the dollars reacted, has seen the way the treasuries have reacted, and yeah, they know that to a certain extent he's on the back foot, and yeah, they want a removal of tariffs before any negotiation, and
Yeah.
so. You know what? Let's pause it for 5 days. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm too simple for a lot of things at this
Well,
point. I'm
yeah,
just like,
me and
what
you
are
both,
we fighting
and
for?
Andy, me and you both. But sometimes in instances like this, just keep it simple, stupid.
That's what I tell myself that often. But so, and then other news, a little potpourri of fundamental data, if you will. Yesterday's ethanol stuff, yeah, ethanol news was pretty supportive to the market. There was a nice recovery in production seen week over week. Stocks are down pretty sharply as well. We saw a nice increase in gasoline demand, or at least what appears to be. A lot of folks in the energy side of things. I know you probably have an opinion on that. Not even tongue in cheek when I say it. I have not been put up
No,
to it
no,
by
no, no,
Mr.
move
Brown by any means.
on.
But it's one of those things where we've been talking about slower domestic demand and some concerns over what that would mean for ethanol, especially if we were to see a reduction in export.
Yeah.
We have seen really, really solid exports. We actually saw multi-month drops in stocks of ethanol, both in the Midwest and in the Gulf. And so really, as it stands currently, corn demand for ethanol, there's been some arguments. There's been some folks that are like, oh, that has to be scaled back. Right now, I don't see it. And a well followed member of the industry, Ag Trader Talk, Garrett Tway, is his name. I get his info every day. And he says corn demand for ethanol is on track to meet the current USDA's figures, if not exceed it slightly, which is something we'll want to see continue through the summer, but seasonally it should. So corn demand for ethanol still remains great. Ethanol export is still super solid, and so that's a good sign, something that you want to see. Export sales this morning came in at the higher end of trade estimates for corn, yay. Lower end of estimates for soybeans, not to be unexpected or a surprise. And we actually saw net cancellations for wheat, so kind of a fart noise there. But corn, Japan was in as the biggest buyer for corn. They were in for over half of the bushels sold. Which you'll probably see them continue to be in for the next few weeks here. Right now, Brazil's really doesn't have much to offer. You are starting to see some offers out of Brazil creep in for first half July, which is quite a bit earlier than what we thought we'd see, though they're probably going to be limited due to logistical capacity or constraints and some of these other things. But that'll be something that we'll watch. We saw soybeans sold to Mexico and the Netherlands. With China, they're gone, but it's not news. Let me say this
Yeah.
again. China not buying US beans right now is not news, and it's not related to the trade war. You have my
Yep.
permission to flick someone in the tip of their nose if they tell you it's because of the trade
I'm
war.
glad
Just
you
a
said
nice
nose.
flick. Whatever. You can choose. You're the dealer. Mexico, unknown. Haiti, and Honduras, we're seeing canceling wheat. That's also not to be unexpected. Wheat is 4 weeks away from its new crop year. You're getting Northern Hemisphere harvest. You're going to have a lot more in the way of available supply. There's limited weather concerns. And so, to see further cancellations in wheat or whatever, not really to be unexpected. I'd mentioned that about Japan, other trade news. You know what I mean? Japan kind of said, we're not going to isolate China. I feel like we're going to run into that with just about everyone in Southeast Asia. They're not going to isolate China.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. Do we get any sort of trade news today? Do we get any sort of a deal announced? Like that's where everyone's at is we need an announcement, but I don't think we're anywhere near one. So
No,
I guess we'll
I'm,
see.
I'm with you.
So yeah, that's about it. Weather-wise, we'll be watching. There's some concerns over continuation of wet weather for the next 10 days. There is talk of planting window opens up after that. You did see a Reuters article this morning, PIQ. I saw it posted on the
Hey.
group there where talking about farmers in Kentucky starting to get a little nervous. And it's not just Kentucky. I'd say you've got farmers in parts of Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Southern Illinois, Southern Indiana, parts of Ohio. It is early yet when you're talking Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. Like I'm not talking like, oh my God, we're so worried about planting delays. But you get further south into Arkansas, Missouri, parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, they are going to have to start thinking about maybe switching some acres, especially if you get into, it's the second week of May before they're really able to get rolling. And the other thing to really take into consideration is if this corn market, December corn, continues to just languish here, the crop insurance price is actually better. There may be some thoughts where it's like I may be further ahead to to not try to struggle and to plant. That is never something a farmer wants to do. They always want to plant their crop. I'm not saying like today they're making that decision, but if we see a continuation of this for the next 10 days, 2 weeks, that could be something that the market's going to have to pay attention to. And so, yeah, we'll see. Trade wise, now we open because this thing was 16 minutes, supposed to be 10. Wheat's down about a penny, corn's up a couple, and beans are also up a little bit. So we'll see what today
Perfect.
brings.
Just one thing I will add on this.
Yes.
Obviously, one thing to keep an eye on is obviously tensions are very, very high now between India and Pakistan, especially with
Yeah.
the Indus water treaty coming up. Pakistan, before we came on air, I saw Pakistani government basically said any disruption to the water down the Indus kind of treaty that they've got will be seen as an act of war. Definitely one to keep an eye on because that is something that is always simmering, but over the last 24 hours, it's really gone up quite a few gears, not just one or two. So definitely one of those things to keep an eye on because it's not affecting us until it really will affect us. So just one to have on the radar.
I have another. I'll add it to the list. Let me get. I feel like half
Yeah,
the time I
exactly.
put on my hazmat suit to dive in to like be able to properly explain the things that matter, right? Where it's like, all right,
Yeah.
so let me tell you why India and Pakistan can matter
Yeah.
now.
No, exactly.
Good times, but definitely things important to pay attention to. Feels like tensions are high just about everywhere. So go easy on yourself. Be safe too if you're out in the fields, all that good stuff, and
Exactly that.
have a
I
happy
echo
Thursday.
that entirely. Exactly that. I echo exactly what you said. If you are out in the fields, please, please, please look after yourselves. And from me and Angie, we'll see you all tomorrow. See you later.
Have a good one.